Hello, my friends, and thank you for tuning in to Weird Mythic Podcast. Welcome to the show. I never know how to really start it. I think that's why I always kind of repeat the same things. But it is Monday. I am a whole day behind and probably 2 days for the uploading and everything. So I'm hoping that this gets out on Tuesday and I'm not too lazy the next 24 hours. Sometimes it's a little hard to get motivated, but I just need to record. I get it recorded, then I can edit, and then it's out there. So just one step at a time, Naomi. We got this. First off, I did misspoke at one point last week talking about Robert Wadlow. He is from Illinois and not Missouri. I think I said both, but he is from Illinois. So I just wanted to make that correction. Other things that happened within the last week, my aunt, it was her birthday. So happy birthday, Aunt Tammy. And my brother turned the big 30 and is now 30. So happy birthday, little brother. We had a great time. Took him out to the casino. It was just him, me, our two stepsisters, our friend Christina, who I've talked about multiple times. My dad met up with us there, and one of their buddies also came over. So had some drinks. I was DD though. I only had a drink, and that was ours, and I ate. But went back to the house and then took some shots. But it was a great time, great weekend. I just saw Oppenheimer. If you are into historical movies and stuff like that, I thought it was fairly accurate. I'm not an expert or anything, but it was a very interesting movie. It really makes you think, and I might have teared up a little bit. So, uh, but something that was very, very fucking cool. I've been waiting all summer, honestly, for Serena to come up to California. I got to hang out with Serena. We went to a new casino up here in Sacramento, and it was just so great to hang out with her. She won some money, so money, money, money. It was hilarious. We weren't winning anything, and then she goes to one of the machines and starts kind of winning, and so I start dancing. And I just have my hands pointing up, like money, fall from the sky. Like I'm doing it right now. Wish you guys could see me. But it started working and she started going up. And then I got on the machine and she started doing the same dance. And so we won some money. And then we weren't winning money. We were losing money. And then we saw this woman. I was like, what is she doing over there at that machine? Because we both like to people watch. That's what we did when we were in Dallas. We just people watched at the bars. It was great. So we're watching this woman play on one of the machines. And I can't tell if it's a touch screen or not. Some of them are, some of them aren't. She was the only one on her little aisle that was touching the screen though, but she kept doing tap tap tap, tap tap tap, tap tap tap, and she do it really fast, tap 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 tap, tap 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 on each of the squares. And she was winning and we're like, huh, well, I'm gonna try that. So both of us tried it on the next couple of games we played and we totally won a little bit of money. It was freaking hilarious. But great seeing Serena. Girl, I love you. And we did have small conversation about possibly her coming back to the show because I mean, she is more than welcome on my end. And she's all, if you'll take me back, I'd love to come back. And I was like, fuck yeah, door was always open. So I don't know if it's going to be every week with Serena, but we did talk about possibility of every other week. So let's all tell Serena to get back on the podcast already and be part of the Weird Mythic podcast again and host it with me. Because damn, it would be great to have a little bit of back and forth with somebody. So also wanted to just kind of go over, I've been paying a little bit of attention to the fires in Hawaii, and my heart goes out to everybody who is affected. I just want to go over a few things, like the facts that I do know. That I know since Saturday, there was at least 6 or more fires burning. I'm not sure if any of them have gone out now. The big one, I'm gonna totally butcher these Hawaiian names, so I do apologize. But the Lahaina fire was 85% contained as of this last weekend. Very high winds. You know, there was some brush fires earlier this week or actually a week ago. Sorry, after reading my notes. But there were some brush fires earlier last week, and those really stoked by high winds and then just created this massive, massive wildfire. And being in California and having the last couple years Paradise burnt down and there was the campfire and it was so devastating. And for an island to go through that, I can't imagine how devastating it is for you there. It's got to be even scarier. These winds were brought on by a Category 4 storm that was way off the coast and it just happened. But there's no like real reason why the fire started. They just said some brush fires. Like usually I know about controlled fires. I've seen them multiple times. They're very controlled. This thing caught so fast that there was some residents just legit running into the ocean to get to safety. The Coast Guard has been picking up people for the whole week, just taking people out of the water. There was even some reports of people putting their children on their any sort of surfboard, longboard, getting in their own boats, canoes, rafts. People were getting on them to just get away from the fire because there was nowhere to go. There was no fucking warning. Maui only has a small fire department or a small firefighting team in that area with only 65 firefighters and 13 engines. And those engines were not meant for firefighters. These were for the small urban homes in the little towns. There has been over 1,700 structures that have been completely destroyed. There's been just some landmarks that are just down to the ground now. There was no water and no electricity on those three, Maui, Lahaina, and Kana'apali. Sorry if I mispronounced those. There was nothing for a very long time. And so I'm also a conspiracy theorist, and I have seen a few videos that are saying this could have been something partly done on the government side. I'm not saying it is because there's always going to be those type of rumors when there's a big natural disaster like this that isn't easily explained, like a fire or a landslide or a flood. There will always be conspiracy theorists out there that do say it was definitely done by somebody either in the government or an inside job. But there is no reason that these fires should have caught on so quickly without any sort of warning. There was also this thing that I read multiple times now that where these fires were was on native land, native Hawaiian land that has been trying to be bought by multiple people that are in the top 1% to 2%. And it's just odd that now there's this natural disaster and they're going to be needing money to fix everything. And this is kind of how people with more money come in and just start buying up land because there's nothing else that can be done. So if anybody has any other theories or knows of exactly how these fires started, please send them over to me to weirdmythicpodcast@gmail.com. What I also need, because I've only gone to local places here in California and have brought food to the fire departments for when we have our fires up here, but I don't know what to do in Hawaii and how I can help besides just bringing awareness that everybody needs money and supplies and, clothing, toiletries, everything that would be needed when everything is lost. Somebody please send me some information on who to send that money to, or what I would rather do is send actual goods to them. But I don't know the channels to go through that I know will get to the right place. So again, if you know of any very good resources that I can send something to, please send that to weirdmythicpodcast@gmail.com. With that being said, and my heart just goes out to everybody affected. I can't say that enough. I have been following the case of Shanquella Robinson. Oh, I should probably tell you guys, this is a true crime episode. If you haven't noticed from the show notes, it is a true crime episode. Haven't done one in over a year. But as I was saying, I've been following the Shanquella Robinson case for the last year. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name because I do know it. I'm just not that good at pronunciation sometimes. So, but Ms. Robinson was a 25-year-old woman from North Carolina, and she owned a couple of boutiques and ran a children's hair braiding business. And oh my gosh, the images online of these kids' hair are just so fucking cool. I love it, all the designs. She was doing really well for herself, went to college. I believe she had a degree. Um, very doing very well for herself for 25 years old. I wish I had that same like drive as a 25-year-old woman to make sure I graduate high school and already have my own business, which I don't, but just knowing that about her and seeing how happy she is in these pictures that I've seen online about her businesses, I wish I had that drive when I was that age. On October 28th, 2022, Shanquella went on a vacation with a friend and a few acquaintances. Seems like she was like close with one of the guys who was going on the trip, but the others she knew were more like, I believe, just from college classes or being on campus. She wasn't really close with anybody, but they were going on vacation, and Shanquella was invited, and she went with them to the resort Puerto Los Cabos in Cabo San Lucas. The people who went with her, I am going to name everybody who went. The people who went with Shanquella Robinson on October 28th to Cabo San Lucas were Khalil Cook, Malik, Patrick Dyer, Winter Donovan, Elise Hyatt, Dejanay Jackson, and Nazir Wiggins. So altogether, there was 4 men and 3 women who went on the trip, I believe. So yes, they all went with her. Shanquella did call her mom at some point the first day they landed and told her that she was having fun and that she loves her mom and they'll stay in contact. There was nothing odd about this phone call. Even her mom was like, I didn't notice anything different. I'm just happy that she called me when she landed and she was safe, which we should all still do that with our parents regardless of how old we are. So this is what we know, guys. On October 29th, the second day at the resort, at about 2 p.m., there was a call placed to the doctor on the resort. So there's a doctor on site. They got a call that somebody wasn't feeling well and really needed medical attention. The doctor went up to Shanquella's room, where all of her traveling companions were, and they were standing around her. Around that same time, somebody called Shanquella's mom and told her that Shanquella wasn't feeling well, but they called the doctor, and the doctor is on their way up. So, okay. Salamandra, who is Shanquella's mom, was told that Shanquella had drank a lot and a lot of alcohol, like a heavy amount of alcohol, and that's why she wasn't feeling well. Dr. Carolyn Gutierrez from the American Medical Center, who works at the resort, goes to Shanquella's room before 3 p.m. The call was placed around 2. She records that Shanquella was extremely dehydrated, extremely disoriented, and unable to communicate. All of her, quote, friends, unquote, were also telling the doctor quite often that Shanquella was drinking a lot that day. And Dr. Gutierrez told these friends, and I use that term loosely, okay? I don't know what else besides, unless you want me to keep saying, traveling companions or acquaintances, but Dr. Gutierrez told these friends, I don't know what else to call them. I'm using that term loosely. The doctor told them that Shanquella needs to go to the hospital to have everything she needs for the state that she was in. Like, she needs to see a doctor with a hospital. Everybody in the room said no to the doctor and hospital visit and asked that Dr. Gutierrez take care of her at the resort. So the doctor decides, okay, I'm going to go ahead and get an IV drip started for Shanquella. As Dr. Gutierrez goes to put the IV in her arm, Shanquella goes into a seizure and then defecates on herself. This was about 4:13 p.m. So she was there for over an hour before giving her the IV drip, and she goes into a seizure. The doctor immediately called an ambulance, and Shanquella then started having trouble with her breathing and went into cardiac arrest as the paramedics were driving to the resort. The paramedics, they arrive at 4:49 p.m. They try CPR 14 times, injected 5 doses of adrenaline, and hit her 6 times with a defibrillator. Shanquella was sadly pronounced dead at 5:57 p.m. on October 29th, 2022. Since the paramedics were called, the police were also on their way. The police arrived around 5:25 p.m., which was less than a half hour after the paramedics. The police first talked to Dr. Gutierrez, who informed the officers that Shanquella was again very and extremely disoriented and dehydrated, and it seemed like she had too much alcohol. She was also unresponsive, and she tried to administer the IV, which she then went into cardiac arrest. And then she also made it very clear to the cops that she told the people who were in the room with Shanquella that she needed to go to a hospital, and they had refused to take her or call an ambulance. At about 6:35 p.m., the General Prosecutor's Office in Baja California was contacted, and the call went to attorney Julio Daniel. This was about the death of a tourist. He filed a report, and he filed all the investigation forms, and then handed over the case to the Federal Ministerial Police, which is the Mexico federal agency. It's kind of like the FBI. The Ministerial Police report states that Shanquella died due to alcohol poisoning and no clear evidence of murder. She died within 2 hours and 45 minutes after Dr. Gutierrez was called. So I'm already just going to kind of stop there and stop going with this timeline because damn. So the paramedics get there at 5:25, and there was a report that was already filed by 6:35 p.m. I think that's very fast, and they really just took the cops' initial interview of what Dr. Gutierrez said, which was just her saying that these people who don't speak Spanish weren't taking her to the hospital. Talking about those quote-unquote friends over there. And I don't know, I don't like how short that report came out and then went to, I don't know. I don't like that right there. So we have the coroner's report, and the coroner's report was done in Mexico and was released on November 5th, 2022. So that's about a week after Shanquella's death. I'm going to go into what this report says. Shanquella passed away 15 minutes after suffering a severe spinal cord injury and a dislocated or separation of the skull base from the spine. Then it has some bullet points. Bullet points. First one is cause of death, severe spinal cord injury, and atlas subluxation/luxation. What that means is when there is an excessive movement between the first 2 vertebrae in the neck. This is legit trauma between the first two, a little above your, like the first ones on your skull are really fucked up. So there's that. Approximate time between injury and death is the next bullet point. Again, 15 minutes. Situation. Quote, person found unconscious in her living room, unquote. The next bullet point is accidental or violent death. It just says yes. Something that wasn't mentioned in this report was no cardiac arrest or alcohol poisoning. November 16th, 2022, the U.S. State Department, who is responsible for the country's foreign policy and relations, came out and made a statement. Pretty much it's just saying that they're looking into the case, but the one quote that stood out to me was that the one thing that really stood out to me in their statement was this, quote, protecting the welfare of U.S. citizens overseas is among our top priority, unquote. So they're just looking into it. Now, sometime between November 16th and November 21st, unfortunately, I couldn't find an exact date. A video was released online of a female attacking Shanquella. Sounds like there is a man in behind the camera filming it, and I think you can also see a couple other people in the room, or you can also hear them. Don't really remember, even though I watched it a few times, but there's definitely some female attacking Shanquella, and then somebody filming it, and it's definitely a guy on the other end. But Shanquella is not fighting back, and this other woman is just hitting her head, hitting her face, hitting her in the back, shoving her to the ground, hitting her hard, like hard on the head. And it is brutal and it is sad. So I read the United States autopsy report also, okay, which was done at a much later time after Shanquella was actually already embalmed. Her body was sent to the Mecklenburg County Medical Examiner's Office, and this autopsy was done on November 17th, 2022. And this one was much different from the one in Mexico. I'm going to try to keep it short because, damn, this one was in depth compared to the Mexican one, but completely freaking different. So they ruled her death as inconclusive. It states that Shanquella was drinking heavily, according to reports and interviews. It does acknowledge this coroner's report actually acknowledges the video and adds that the video happened. Then Shanquella went back to her room. Then a housekeeper found her lying in her room that afternoon. This report also states that at 2:15, medical persons were called. Then at 3:15, medical persons arrived, and the IV drip tried. Nothing was able to be done because she went into cardiopulmonary arrest, which is a heart attack. Not a doctor, so that's the best way I can explain it, all right? So educate me if you can. But it also states that there was resuscitation, and it was unsuccessful, and Shanquella was pronounced dead at 5:57. But let me get into the things that really stood out to me, besides those things that we can pretty much agree on, except for the fact that I didn't know where this housekeeper person came from to give the call. But Shanquella was already embalmed when this examination happened, and it was 2 weeks after her death. Her brain was also in a bag. There was also focal abrasions with bruising and a hematoma under her left eye. There's also no mention of an injury to her neck or spine. They did find dried blood in parts of Shanquella where the brainstem and spinal cord meet. They also found dried blood in her lower trachea, her bilateral main bronchi, which can happen when somebody pukes, and there was also lots of dried blood in her respiratory system. This report also stated that there was a slight scoliotic curvature on the spine, which is scoliosis, I believe, but there's not one report that I found that said that Shanquella had scoliosis. So why would her spine be curved like that? If I was doing some horrible research and you guys know that she did, please enlighten me and let me know. And although they said that the cause of death is undetermined, the U.S. autopsy report states that Shanquella had a hematoma on top of her forehead that is consistent with blunt force trauma, which is exactly what we fucking see on the video of her getting attacked in the hotel room. There's also the cerebral edema, which is consistent with several hours of blood flow and oxygen to the brain being cut off. And reading into the report, Shanquella had a lot of abrasions all over her, a lot on her face and a lot on her left eye, which I'm going to report back to that video since it's also in the coroner's report about the video that could be from that. Jesus. Why are the autopsy reports so much different from each other? The autopsy that was done in Mexico was on October 30th, 2022. And again, it states not several, severe spinal injury with atlas luxation. They also did a toxicology report, and it says that there was no ethanol in her system, which means there was no alcohol. That was over 2 weeks between the autopsies, and I just don't understand. Even though it's undetermined with the United States autopsy report, there's no charges against anyone that traveled with her. They could at least get her on battery charges. I don't understand why that couldn't be done. And then like a lot of times will happen is they'll go for the battery charge and then they'll get prosecuted with murder or whatever. Ugh. So as of April 12th, 2023, this year, U.S. Justice Department is not charging anyone. They came out with a report. We're not charging anybody. But guess what? Mexico did issue an arrest warrant for somebody that was in that group. And it wasn't released until recently, though. I do have a link to who that individual is, and they are in the show notes. But I named everybody who should be held accountable in the beginning, but there is a link if you want to know who the exact individual is that Mexico wants extradited to them so that they can press charges. So the reason why our U.S. Justice Department does not want to charge anybody is because there's not enough evidence to prosecute anyone in the death of Shanquella. The fuck there isn't. Shanquella Robinson's family did send a letter to Joe Biden to get the federal government involved. And the Robinson's family lawyer is a great motherfucking lawyer. I've heard her name before, and her name is Sue Ann Robinson. No, she is not any relation to the family. Just happens to be her last name also. But Sue Ann Robinson, the family attorney, is accusing the FBI of being slow in interviewing and in the investigation into Shanquella's death, and I agree with her. Shanquella's death. I agree. I think I said desk. Anyways, quote, the U.S. citizens cannot go to Mexico, commit a crime that we all saw on video, and then come back to America and say, we're on home base, we're safe. We're not going to be charged with a crime, unquote. That cannot be the message the U.S. authorities want to send, unquote, quote. That was from the Robinson lawyer, and I think she said it perfectly. How is any of that okay for us to do? We can't go to another country, commit a crime, and then come back and think that we can't be charged with it. That's not the way shit works. Sue Ann even went to Mexico to do some investigating herself. Lawyers don't usually do that. She talked with the authorities who were there, who investigated the case, and they believe that Shanquella's death was murder, and it was actually a case of femicide, which is a woman being murdered because she's a woman. They also tell Sue Ann that they sent an extradition to the U.S. government, but have had no response. On May 19th, 2023, Shanquella's family and all of the attorneys organized a group to go to D.C. to demand the attention and diplomatic intervention on Shanquella's case. Sue Ann and the other lawyers would like one of two things to happen. One, the U.S. extradites Shanquella Robinson's killer to Mexico. Or two, the U.S. takes jurisdiction of the case and her killer is prosecuted here. There has been no updates on the murder of Shanquella Robinson, at least her case, since 2023, because nobody's doing anything. Our government, the authorities aren't doing anything. We'll say, just because I know some people, you want to have a little bit of justice done. There's a video, and I have it in the show notes, don't worry, of a woman who went on the trip with Shanquella outside somewhere. It looks either just a parking lot. Anyway, she's getting her ass kicked. So there's a bit of street justice for you. I, again, have no idea why there's nothing being done with this case. I don't understand why it's been a year. It will be a year in October. The end of October, it's a year since Shanquella has passed on, and there is nothing for her family to do right now because the people who committed the crime and did this are in America now when they were in or the United States and they were in Mexico when it happened, but you can't just get away with murder. I'm also not a lawyer, I'm not a judge. I don't know a whole lot about the law, especially on foreign policy. So please, somebody, we got to do something to help the Robinson family and find out why this happened to Shanquella, first off, and then take those people to bring some justice for this family. I can't say that. I don't know, man. See, this is why I can't do true crime episodes, especially shit like this. Like I just get mad. I don't like it. I don't like being mad. But please, guys, if you know anything about Shanquella Robinson and this case and what is now being considered the Cabo Six, which were all the people I mentioned in the beginning of the show, please send me any and all information to weirdmythicpodcast@gmail.com. I need to know everything I can. Also, send me all of your thoughts to all of my social medias. Weird Mythic Podcast at Twitter, Weird Mythic Podcast on Instagram. Don't forget to go to my link trees and go to the merch store and check out my new shit. Go to Weird Mythic Podcast on YouTube. Go to Weird Mythic on TikTok. And again, let me know what you think about this case, what you know about this episode, or if you have your own true crime episode I might cover later. But definitely send me stuff on anything paranormal and especially cryptids. I want some firsthand encounters. Send all of that to weirdmythicpodcast@gmail.com. Bye.